Hi, everybody. Leslie here. My weekly Zazoo Plazz report. How's everybody doing? It's July 13th, 2025. Here I am, my summertime Zazoo Plazz report. What is it? Almost 3:30 in the afternoon. Oh, wow, 15th Sunday. Ordinary time. The readings today. Oh, it's going to be a good one. You know, it's okay, so quick astrological update before we get into all this. I can feel it already. It's the communication. It's yesterday, Saturn went retrograde. It's going back into Pisces. It's in Aries. I think it's in Aries now, going back into Pisces before too long. So there's that through November. So that's Saturn retrograde. That's interesting. Those of us Gen Xers born in '65, we're just finishing our second Saturn return. And the kids born in '66 and '67 are getting ready to go into it. They just turned 58. So it's like between like 58 and like 59 or so, you have your second Saturn return. First one is at 29 to 30. So we're just cruising right now. We're coming out of it. And these younger ones, the ones born a year or two after us, are either right in the thick of it or just going into it. So it's a good feeling. There is a feeling with Saturn, it's that heaviness, it's a restricting feeling. So it's like whatever you didn't, it's different the second time. The second time is more like, revisiting, those things that you've done, between your first Saturn return and the second one. And, it's all kind of about seeing where you've been and seeing, you don't necessarily know where you're going yet, but you do know where you've been. There's some song about that. So it's kind of like a reckoning, of, what's not working, what needs to be discarded, and what do I take with me, So that's kind of been my experience. There's been a lot of things that have fallen by the wayside, and it's been a time of coming to terms with, who am I really, You look at all of your experiences from the time you were a kid, through your 50s. You've raised kids, a lot of us, you've had to, a lot of us have had to, have said, have had parents pass, or, be taking care of parents. Thankfully my dad is, still active and taking care of him. He's independent. But, some people have lost both parents. And so this is the time. And this is a lot of what I speak to, with my generation right now. We're in the middle. We're the sandwich generation, and we're going into it in a different way than the boomers, And probably a lot of their parents didn't, either they had kids earlier, and so they weren't dealing with elderly parents and youngish children at the same time, like teens, a lot of them had kids early. So it's not the same. So boomers who said, oh, we did it. It's not, maybe the younger boomers, yeah, but the older boomers, it's not the same. It's an entirely different experience, I think. I can only speak for myself here. What, my former spouse and I have gone through with our boys and our parents, and, his parents were older than mine by a few years, so, they went first. But they still live, pretty long lives, and pretty healthy lives. So, this is kind of where I'm coming from today. And in this week, I think the 17th, Mercury is going retrograde in Leo. So I'm feeling the shadow of this already, you know. And okay, Mercury deals with travel, communication, you know, anything to do with that. Mercury is the messenger, right? And in Leo, you know, Leo's all about is that's the sign that is to do with love, creativity, expression, you know, what I want to say to the world, right? Expressing yourself. On the shadow side, it can be, you know, pride, right? A little too much. You know, somebody who doesn't want to hand the mic over to somebody else, you know, because they're la la la, mana mana, do 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 do, mana mana da 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 da. You know, if you know, you know. So as it goes retrograde, so that might be, you know, people, you know, not people not understanding you, having ego clashes with people, you know, being misunderstood, travel delays, things like that. So, you know, so this all kind of ties into the readings today. It's amazing. You know, and so I picked out some of the, whenever there's a retrograde, there's the words, you know, refresh, rebuild, restore, reflect, yeah, revive, things like that. So, what do we have first here? Deuteronomy. I'm just going to, actually, before I get into the readings, yeah, I was thinking, I don't really have a lot to talk about. I had to go out, I did go out and get my meat for my meatloaf this week. I'm going to make meatloaf because I was craving it, you know. So I still got a night of leftovers tonight. I'm going to have my chicken chili, but I'm looking forward to making a meatloaf. Every now and then I need some red meat, you know, and I have a good recipe. And I get these like potato flakes. They're just potatoes. They're like Bob's Red Mill, the healthy brand. I had to order them because they didn't have them at my job lot place. But they're like these dehydrated potato flakes, and you just add some like milk and a little butter and some stuff to it, and fluff, you know, cook them, and then you fluff them up. Cook them in the microwave and fluff them up. I always put some Greek yogurt in there. Not sour cream is too many calories. I put a little garlic powder, which gives them that nice savory garlic flavor. They're so good. A little, what do I put? Not even that much. I don't even put, maybe a little salt. It's so good. And then I got green beans, frozen green beans. I'm just gonna. So I have everything in the freezer so I can make it whenever. See, this is how I do my meals. I make healthy meals. And yeah, I'm kind of proud of that, you know. I'm proud of the fact that I guess there is some pride to it. What I'm proud of is when I save money and I use up all the food in the freezer and I use my resources and I don't squander things. That's a good kind of pride. When you're proud of yourself for, you know, I get up every day and I work out. I'm proud of myself. I acknowledge that, you know what, that wasn't easy, and I'm, you know, taking care of myself. And it's not a pride where you say you're better than anybody. It's a pride where you say, I'm doing the best I can for myself right now. I'm doing a good job. You know, every now and then, it's, you know, and a lot of us, especially women, we're brought up to say, you know, to tone it down, right? Many people are always telling women, don't take up so much space, shrink, be quiet. No. My mother gave me this book back in the 90s or whatever. It was Lions Don't Need to Roar. So is she trying to tell me something? It was by this woman, businesswoman, because I was in business, and I guess she was, and my mother also gave me a book called Silent Power. I think she was trying to tell me to be quiet or something. I don't know. I don't really know what she meant by that. But she's gone now, and I can't ask her. So, anyway, I'm going to try to shed some light on some things that I wonder about, as I do every week. And we'll see what comes up. Yeah. So, okay. Deuteronomy. So, let's just jump into the readings. It might be a short week. My kids are apparently, one is moving out and one is coming back in. There's one the younger one's moving out to his new apartment. It's up by Yukon somewhere, in the middle of the woods. It's like a shack in the woods or something. He's the kid who we sent both of them off to scout camp in the summer for a week. And, and then they both got their eagles. But then after a certain point, you get out. But they both made it through eagle, so that was kind of cool. I posted on Facebook there, just a little memory of sending them off to scout camp. And the thing was, my former spouse. Every year, leading up to July, the first week or two of July, whenever they went to camp, sometimes it was the first week, sometimes it was the second or third, but they'd go down to the basement. We had the space. We finished our basement. We had this. Just bear with me here. It's going to be worth it. Under the stairway in our finished basement, he put a door. And that's where we would shove all of our suitcases. So when we went to pack for vacation, he'd go in there and lug out all the big suitcases and the little suitcases and duffel bags. And so then over the years, as the boys got into scouting, he would he put hooks and shelves and everything in there, and that's where all the sleeping bags and the camp, the pads that go under the thing, and all the camping crap went in there. All the the poles and the pads and the backpacks and all these things. I think there was other stuff that he kept in the garage, but most of the bedding and the duffel bags and the crap, he'd haul it all out and dump it in the middle. You did this. He'd dump it in the middle of the living room, where it would stay for most of the summer. I would say at least the month of July. And then the dog would be walking through, sniffing everything, and there'd be boots, dragged out of closets and thrown in the pile. There would be a pile by the fireplace between the love seat and the TV, so that we had two windows, and the stuff would be mainly in that area, with a small space to pass by, and then some stuff would come out and land in the kitchen, like coolers and meal snacks and all kinds of things, and then things would be in the laundry room. And even some things would go out on the deck, especially when they came back. When they came back, everything was dirty and muddy and stuff. And they'd throw all this shit on the deck, and some of it would get hosed down, but it'd all be drying out on the deck, and all the clothes would be, washed. They come in flump, right? The dirty stuff would either end up on the deck or right by the laundry room, flump, right there. And we had a pretty small area in the kitchen to begin with. So every year, for a while, there was scout camp. We did take a vacation. I think our last family vacation was like 2015. but then we had several years of just them going to scout camp. And there were some years when they were in Cub Scouts, they did camp and vacation. So we had, craziness. But so, and and now I guess they have girls in it. But back then, it was just when my boys went through, 2021 was the last one, the last year he went through. But, I can still see it. I can still see all the stuff. And, sometimes they'd all three of them go off, and then it would just be me and the dog. And then one year, I took advantage of them being, all of them gone. And I said I was going to be writing because I was sort of starting to get ready to write my book. And I sat down at the table and realized that, he had given me the old kitchen table. He had put my computer on it, and the table was squeaking. It was because it was the old kitchen table. We got a new one, but then he stuck the old one down in the corner, and he put all my computer stuff on it. When was this? About 2017, I think it was. Yeah. And so I decided that I wanted to change things up a little, and I tore that table apart. Half of it, when he came home, half of it was sitting by the curb. And so I took that damn table, I tipped it over, I unscrewed all the legs, and I took it apart, and I brought it up in pieces to the upstairs, and I put it out for the trash pickup, for the, the special pickup. So what the hell did you do? Anyway, sometimes I get tired of waiting, and I take it upon myself. I take the bull by the horns, and I get things done. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I digressed. Anyway, story time's over for today. Get with it, Zazoo. Okay. Deuteronomy 3. Moses said to the people, "Return to God with all your heart and soul." So there's this feeling of like single-minded purpose of, going to, what you have to do, right? It's like the commandment, right? So that's sort of the theme today. It's in our design. We come down here with a purpose that our soul, knew, and then we forget. But it's encoded in us, right? And it's up to us to figure it out, right? So it's not there. You don't have to, take a plane and a boat and go and find it out there, or have somebody go and come tell you what it is. We have to listen. We have to go within and find it, right? The map is inside, right? So somebody can give you sort of a little, a zap. Somebody can reflect to you what they see, But then it's up to you to go with that. Take that and run with it, You have to carry it out. It's not for anybody else to do. If you see something that's you don't like in the world, and you're saying somebody should do something about that, and you're really burning up about it, maybe you're the one who's supposed to do something. Maybe it's your job and you haven't done it yet. I'm talking to myself here too. That's what I'm starting to realize. That's why I wrote the book in the first place. Because I wasn't finding anything interesting to read anymore, and I'm getting to that point on Facebook. I only follow 5 pages on there, and I'm going in my feed and nothing is sparking my interest. Nothing is original or true or authentic or, it doesn't entertain me. So just the people, if I follow you on Facebook, that means that you've got something special. These are the people who I think are doing what they're meant to be doing, because there's an authenticity about it. There's a you're refreshed when you see their page. You think, gee, there's almost an addictive quality to it, right? You keep, I try unfollowing some people, and I'm always wondering, gee, I wonder what they're doing over there, and I find myself going back. Those are the kind of people that you follow, because they have something that lures you in, So, anyway, I'll put that out there. So the psalm, turn to the Lord in your need and you will live. So, God revives our hearts. Your words, Lord, are spirit and life. And then there's all these retrograde words that I found. Revive, rejoice, refresh, rebuild, reflect, restore. All these were in the readings today. The decree of the Lord is trustworthy. That sounds like something in the Scout Creed. The Boy Scouts are trustworthy and all these things, loyal, kind. And they have to, the Scouts, they do a good turn, at least the Cubs. They would get these pins and they would wear them upside down. And then if they did a good turn, they could turn it around, And that makes me think of today's gospel, the Good Samaritan. So the boys had to figure out, find an opportunity to help somebody out. And then they could, turn their badges right. So that all kind of ties into Leo, that standing tall, you're shining in your God-given purpose. You're shining out to the world. That's not a bad thing, It's a true thing in its highest, in its highest form. That's the essence of Leo. Is royal. It's regal, right? It's picture the Lion King standing on the, standing tall. That's Leo. My grandfather was Leo, and my grandmother was Leona, which is the female of Leo. So that's like lioness, So that's interesting. Giving wisdom to the simple. Fear of God is pure, right? And just. The words of God, sweeter than syrup or honey and more precious than gold. So that's interesting. Gold reminds me of kind of like that Christ light, the liquid gold, the sun, that's Leo, gold is the sun, right? So Colossians, letter to the Colossians. So there's this idea of, God, in him all things are held together in Christ, he's the image of the invisible God. He's God, the Christ that, binds all of us together, right? Made real, made concrete. So that's kind of Saturn, He's come down in form, God in form, to show us, and, bring all things, collect all the things that have gone astray, reconcile, there's another word, all things to him. So all things are made right? All things that have gone wrong before, and that's kind of what a retrograde does. A retrograde says, oh, wait, something's not right here. Let's go back and see what happened. There goes my air conditioning. It's sort of like, when you reconcile with someone, say you have a falling out, right? And you go and you reconcile, you make up, you make things right? So that's kind of like how I see it. Take it as you will. But, all right. And then so the big thing is the Gospel of Luke 10. There's this scholar of the law, you know those people, the ones who were, trying to catch him, trying to test him. Those kind of people. They're the kind of people, on social media. You say oranges are orange, and they'll say, no, they're not. They're red, or there's blood oranges, or you say something that you think is factual, and no matter who or what you say or who you are, there's going to be somebody up in your face, putting you down, calling you stupid or whatever. Those are the people I block immediately. Just a heads up. I block them, I report them, and I put them in my books. So if you're thinking about doing that to me, just a heads up. I'm letting you know what happens to people who treat me that way. Okay, let's see. Oh, so the scholar, he says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He thinks he has, there's this, in our society, there's this emphasis on doing as opposed to just being, right? What must I do? I gotta go out and do, I gotta do something, right? To prove, to earn this, right? And, Jesus is saying it's simple. It's not that complicated. He says, well, what is written in the law? He asks the guy. And, how do you interpret? The guy says, well, and he's reciting it. You shall love the Lord your God, this and this, and, and what it really is the law is, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. In other words, with your whole being, right? Your whole aura, all your auras, as yourself, right? So, then he says, yeah, that's right. Well, who is your neighbor? And he says, who is my neighbor, right? If you have to ask, then, okay, won't you be my neighbor? Okay, Mr. Rogers. So we have the Good Samaritan. Jesus would tell little stories, little vignettes, like I do. I'm not comparing myself. I'm just saying, that it's a good way, that's how I tell little funny stories about my life. But, and anybody who's, if you're trying to, talk about spiritual things, it's a good way an anecdote is a good way to get your point across, because especially if it's something a lot of people can relate to. So Jesus starts telling this story, which was pertinent to the time, about this, I guess it was, a Jewish man. He's on the road, he's walking down the road, and he's, goes in a bad neighborhood, and, kind of like the Griswolds when they drove through a bad neighborhood on the way to Wally World, and they were stopped at the red light, and his wife, Mrs. Griswold, I don't like the looks of this Clark. And they're sitting there, and the guys come and they take all the hubcaps and all the wheels, and they rob them basically, because you see them, you see the car kind of going down the street, and everything's been stripped off of it, right? That's basically what happened to this guy. He got stripped. He went through a bad neighborhood, and he got robbed and just sort of left there, right? And people were going by and looking at him, a priest, Levite. So these were people his own kind. So, and then the Samaritan comes by. Now, apparently the Samaritans, they were Jewish. Their difference with the Jews was that they disagreed over where the Holy Land was. Mount Zion was the Jews, and then the Samaritans said it was Gerizim, Mount Gerizim or something like that. And I'm not Jewish, so yeah, this is just what I read in the Bible study page that I looked it up on. So anyway, so you would think that these holy people would have stopped, right? Because that's what they preach, to do that, right? And here's this other guy, it was a stranger. He said he was moved with compassion. He stops, he tends to the man's, injuries. He puts him on the back of his donkey or horse or whatever, takes him to an inn, pays for him to be cared for there, gives the guy money. He says, I'll pay the rest when I come back. I'll check in on my way back, and I'll pay anything else that he, incurs. So, if you put it in today's context, and I'm going to go a little over today, but it just blows my mind. It's like, how many people would do that today, right? Some people might stop and call 911, maybe, but, everybody's got an example in your life of maybe sometime. I can remember a time when I was, I got a flat tire going somewhere, and some guy came out of nowhere, stopped his car, and came and helped me change my tire. And I've never forgotten about that, and you think maybe they're angels, there are many more times when people have appeared out of nowhere to help me out. So I've developed more faith because of that, because I know I'm being looked after. There's no other explanation. Okay, so get to the song. All right. So I thought, I was thinking of another song, an Eagle song, but scratch that. So I said, this is perfect. The Bangles, Walking Down Your Street, they wrote it in 1985. Susanna Hoffs wrote it with Luis Gutierrez. It was recorded in it was the fourth single from their 1986 album, Different Light, which was great. Released, the single came out on February of 87. So I was 21. In college, senior year in college, this came out. Oh man, it takes me back to college. It got up to number 11 on the Billboard 100. Oh man, that was a great. Oh, the Bangles are great. I love the Bangles. So some lyrics. Okay, so it was the first of their 4 top 40 hits that was composed by a band member. Right? I guess all the other ones were written by somebody else. In the video, the band is, the Bangles are opening for Little Richard. So it's kind of them, going to the place. And then they get on the stage to open for him, and they keep going and singing. And, he's like, and they just keep going and going. And I said, oh, that's perfect. That's like Leo. Retrograde. Retrograde is like, stop, And I never noticed before, Randy Quaid is in the video. They see him on the road and the way. So that's something to look for. I maybe forgot, or I never noticed it before. Cousin Eddie, from the Vacation movies. So, it talks about, okay, so there's one line in here. Walking down your street with the love that I can't hide. And Leo is love. It says, sacrifice my pride. I always thought it was not taken by surprise. Taken by surprise. It was sacrifice my pride. And burning, there's a burning in the song. Fire, inspire. So there's all that imagery there. And then she goes, da, 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 da. That's like dada, that's like father, which is kind of son, which is Leo. Anyway. So that's what I've got. Yeah, so, walking down your street, I thought it was perfect. I just listened to it, and I've gone way over today. But, yeah, Mercury retrograde is coming, so that's that. That's all I got for today. Actually, I've got more. I'll write it in the comments. Remember, ZazooPlazz.com. Check out my website. If you like my videos, you like my stuff, don't remember to like and subscribe if you like my stuff, my content, so you won't miss anything. And always look in the description, because I put a ton of stuff down in the description below. Links to videos, extra little things. So if you made it this far, thank you. And I will return back down your street. That song, okay, anyway, I won't talk about that. I'll put it in the comments maybe. I'll be back here on your street next week, same place, different time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.